My name is Matt McKeag. I'm from Hamilton, Ontario originally, currently living in Wainfleet, Ontario. I am the lead vocalist for Laid to Rest. I also play bass in Krom, and I play drums in Samaxe. And so what got me into punk, hardcore, and metal? Off the top of my head, first thing I'd have to say is my brother. When I was a kid, he was determined, him and some of his buddies like you, to get me into it. I was like 10 or 11 years old. It was Christmas, and for a present he got me Bad Religion Suffer on cassette and Metallica Master of Puppets on cassette. Those two albums kind of opened the door for me as a young kid. They both blew my mind, and I just never really looked back. I don't even know what I was into before that, but that's all that mattered. And then from there it just kind of branched out to hardcore, thrash, ska, speed punk, all the other subgenres where I was that kid that, had the paper route and go spend my allowance at the record store. Any kind of time I had money, I was always there just buying albums that looked cool and doing whatever, right? And just always chasing after cool music. But initially what got me into it, 100% would have to probably be my big brother Rob. So personal influences growing up, personal and musical. Personally was definitely guys I hung out with and grew up with, other guys in bands, guys I skated with, were in class with in high school. We all listened to a lot of the same shit, loved punk music. We're starting to get into hardcore bands like Agnostic Front, Madball, Sick of It All. Primarily was a lot of AFI, NoFX, Pennywise, Bad Religion, a lot of SoCal punk rock. It kind of inspired us to start our own band, jam, write music, get that creative outlet going. So we all fed off each other. It was awesome. So growing up, personally, those guys I went to school with and grew up with, skated with, they were a huge, huge impact on me musically. As far as bands go that I was into, I'd have to say NoFX, Bad Religion, early Strung Out, not newer Strung Out, older Strung Out, AFI, huge impact, Agnostic Front, Sick of It All, Race Fist. Ultimately, I was always a gang vocal guy, and Stronger Than Ever. They were always, that was the cream of the crop for me growing up. Bands like DRI, obviously your classics. You got Sabbath, Metallica, stuff like that. As a kid growing up, it was mind melting. So there's inspiration everywhere. You just take your pick at that time. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I could go on forever, but I'll cap it at that. All right, so my first concert and my first punk show is the exact same thing. Warped Tour 1998, the Docks in Toronto. I was like 14 or 15 or something at the time. A friend of mine in high school, her mom rented a U-Haul and packed like 15 of us into the back of this 14-footer. And we were just drinking, smoking dope, doing all the good stuff our parents fucking warned us against growing up in high school. Got there early, and still to this day, probably one of the best experiences of my entire life. Going in and seeing bands that I'd already had on repeat, on my Walkman for years. But then actually going to see them live for the first time and getting to see so many of them. Getting to see Bad Religion, NoFX, Dropkick Murphys back when Matt was in the band, Snapcase for the first time ever. Watching Alex basically pull a guy's teeth out with his bare hands. Oh God, who else was there? The Deftones, I wasn't really into them, but it was cool seeing them like around the Fur area. That was pretty awesome. Rancid, first time ever seeing them. It was amazing. Gob, back when they were on like the side stage and they were still killing it. It was awesome. Like I'm still blowing dust out of my nose from it, over 20 years later. But that was my first show, and definitely was not my last. It opened up everything for me in regards to wanting to be in bands, wanting to watch bands, I knew I belonged around and involved in music no matter what. And that show was definitely like a big catalyst for that. That's it. All right, so favorite show I ever attended. There'd have to be at least a couple. I would say, off the top of my head, 2000 or 2001 at the Opera House in Toronto. It was AFI, Death by Stereo, Leftover Crack, who at the time we didn't even know was on the bill. They just showed up. Belvedere, I think. I was never really into them, but they were cool to see. And Rise Against, before the Unraveling came out. And Rise Against, when they were first starting out, make no mistake, they were an amazing band. I don't know if the show was as good as it actually was, or I was just where I was in my life, being that young, being so impressionable to music. That show stuck with me forever. Especially AFI, that energy that they portrayed when they were playing, back when they were doing, their East Bay hardcore thing, and they were still writing amazing music. This was like before Art of Drowning came out. It was amazing. So it just captivated me, and I was just forever taken. I'll always remember that show. It was awesome. That and the fact I could still mosh because I was young and I didn't give a shit. So other than that one, a more recent show sticks to mind is going to see Gwar. I've always said, whether you like Gwar or not, hopefully you do because they're awesome. The show they put on is so good, you almost don't even need to be a fan of their music. That's no disrespect to the music they write because they are amazing, and I love Gwar as a band. But the show they put on when you go see them in concert is just mind-blowing. I saw them in my 30s, and I got the goosebumps that I got going to see bands when I was 17. And they had the power to do that to me, as a guy who's been around and seen a few things. I commend them for that. And that was only a few years ago, and that was one of the best shows I've ever been to. Yeah, that's it. I'll cap it at that. All right, past and present band history. I'd have to start in high school, I guess. The Shamcocks with Jesse Barkowitz and Zach Kors and Matt Lewis. I think Mike Frank was in it. A bunch of old buddies of mine. Steve, you know him. We just basically did punk covers, and again, it's going back to like feeding off inspiration and having fun. All we did was skate and stuff. Next thing to do was start writing music, and all we did was punk covers. We just jammed in Bimbrook at Jesse's house and learned all these songs, and yeah, just had fun with it. We even got a show at the Corktown in God, 97 or something like that. Pretty sure as we were chatting about earlier, stepping over needles, getting onto the stage. Back when Lou ran it, and it was just the most welcoming experience ever. I'll always be grateful to guys like Lou Malareno for what they've done to the local music scene. Now getting back on track here, Shamcocks morphed into a band called Vicious Deuce. They started writing their own material, so we brought in our buddy Danny. He sang the originals, I did the covers. It was kind of like two singers. It was weird, but it's fun. And then did that for a bit, a couple shows, a few jams, parties, whatever. And then our buddy Shane came in, and we both learned pretty quick that he could do what both me and Danny did better than we could together. So Shane became the singer of Vicious Deuce, and in my opinion, they went on to be an amazing punk band. They were great. We stepped down, kind of did our own thing. They went on, put out an album, did a bunch of cool shows. I became a fan. It was great. I kind of went a little dormant after that for a few years until around, I think, 2003 or 2004. I met Dan Fenor and Brad Scott from Razor Eater. They were starting a new project. They had a bunch of songs written. They needed a singer. I liked the stuff they wrote when I first heard it. They gave me a CD. I remember on it. It said "The Shit." Dan, if you ever see this, you're going to remember that. I listened to it, and it felt like I was getting my teeth kicked down my throat for the entire time I listened to it. I loved it. I knew I wanted to sing in that band. I wrote a bunch of lyrics almost overnight. We got together and jammed. Sounded great. That band went on to become Riot Brigade. We got our buddy Lenny in on bass. Played a bunch of shows. I think we were around till around like '07. We were really only like playing shows diligently from, I'd say, mid '05 to mid '06. We put out an album, you know, and then kind of doing a few shows later going into '07 until we tapered off. And yeah, that was pretty much the end of Riot Brigade, but it was that was a really fun band. Then I kind of went dormant again for a little bit until I got a call from my buddy Sandy. He called me up one day, and they were looking for a singer for this metal band that they were in. I knew him from like Hatchet Face, and I knew some of the other projects he was in from the past, but I didn't really know him all that well yet. That's probably why I said yes. He called me up and said they're looking for a singer. They got a show in 10 days. They don't want to let the promoter down. They want to keep a good relationship with him in the venue and whatever. So I said, well, let's meet up. Give me your material. I'll check it out. Met him the next day, like at Tim Hortons in Keaga. I think gave me their CD. And I was just trying to like hide my grin because I thought it was some of the coolest stuff I had ever heard. Thought it was, you know, original, awesome. It had elements of everything I loved. You know, it was metal, it was punk, it was hardcore, it was thrash, it was crossover. At its root, it was heavy metal. I'll still stand by that. I said, yeah, I'll write some lyrics. We'll get the show out of the way, and I'll help you guys out. We got together and jammed. I wrote like 10 songs in like 9 days or something crazy like that. I can't even remember. We did the show. It was awesome. We decided that I was a good fit. They wanted me in the band. To me, it was kind of like my dream band. I thought, this is, you know, needle in a haystack. I felt really lucky. All the dudes were really cool. That band was laid to rest. We've been going ever since, I think like 11 or 12 years now. And, you know, before this pandemic hit, sorry I wasn't even going to mention it, but before it hit, we had a studio booked. We were getting ready to put out a whole new record, and we're still waiting to put that out. So hopefully once all this stuff is behind us, we're going to, you know, keep pushing forward and keep doing what we love to do, man. Keep writing the songs we like and doing everything that makes us who we are. And between then, I mean, I've been in laid to rest since then, but there's been a few bands on the in-between here and there. So I was lucky enough to start another band with other members inside laid to rest called Krom. Me, Bolts, and Luke. And we basically were looking for something to do before going to a Tycat game. So we decided to like join this band. Luke, he plays guitar in laid to rest. He plays drums in Krom. I do bass. And Bolts plays lead guitar, rhythm guitar, backup guitar, and vocals. Bolts does a lot in Krom. And I think we got like 12 albums or something on our Bandcamp. Not a lot of people have heard about us. I think we've only done maybe 6 or 7 shows. But every album we have is one of our jams. And we just record everything. Bolts is really kind of creative, takes it home, mixes it, puts a lot of heart and soul into it. Overdubs his guitars, vocals, everything, puts it all together, makes it look all pretty, puts it on the internet, and it's great. Most of the time, we don't even remember half the songs because, you know, Oski Wee Wee. And that was kind of like the whole birth of Krom, and we're still going. We still jam when we can. There was also Gigantusk, which I was in with my brother, the very guy who got me into music, Steve McKeag, who was in Laid to Rest with you, and Keith, a longtime friend of mine who I worked with for, about 12 years. And we were like, in my opinion, just like a crushing stoner band. The whole idea behind that was we wanted to be the epitome of meat and potatoes. No solos, nothing fancy. If you could think of like the most basic 4-chord like Black Flag song, down-tuned, slowed down and fuzzed out and played for about 18 minutes, that is the basic structure for every Gigantusk song we ever wrote, with the odd fast part here thrown in there. And I think we were around from 2012 to 2014 or 2015 or something like that before it fizzled out. And that was a lot of fun too. I think we put out an EP, played a bunch of fun shows. I'm still super close with all those dudes. They're all great. And the only other band would be Samaxe, which I'm still in, and that's just me and Bolts. And if you can picture, I don't even know how to describe it. It'd be like anal cunt meets Ed O'Neill's sense of humor from Married with Children. I don't even know how to describe what Samaxe is, but we are online. We got music on there, and it's super fun listening. You know, it's stuff that you want to show your grandma. All right, so the craziest thing I ever saw at a show, aside from Jibe cannonballing through tables at the Corktown at a Riot Brigade show, which may not be crazy, but to me will always be warm in my heart. I would have to say Warped Tour 2002, I think. Can't remember exactly the year, but I'm pretty sure we were in the pit for H2O, and I was standing next to this fucking big dummy, just a big jock guy who was just there to cause trouble. And this young girl was crowd surfing, just trying to have fun, watch the show. She was wearing a kilt. We always had kind of a rule of thumb in the punk community was everyone's crowd surfing, just support them. Don't grope them, support them. And this guy didn't seem to grab that concept, and he grabbed her inappropriately. And before anyone could even do anything in her defense or, you know, stick up for her, she was pretty tough. She dropped down right next to me on my right, and got her revenge by pulling out a tampon and very, very firmly placing it in his mouth. And that shut him up pretty quick. And there wasn't really a thing he could do, because if he tried to do anything in retaliation, he would have got his head kicked in. And he deserved it. And not that I think you'll see this, buddy, but you deserved it. And yeah, that was one of the craziest things. You know, I don't know whether to condone it or not. I mean, I was definitely grossed out by it. I also thought it was funny because I thought he deserved it. And if that girl was here right now, I'd have a beer with her. So yeah, take that. All right, so what do I love and hate the most about being a musician? I guess things I love the most are, you know, aside from having like the creative outlet of writing, you know, getting your aggression out when you're in, you know, a metal band or a hardcore band or a punk band or whatever. Like the therapy that comes with that is just beyond reproach. It's just amazing. But being in a scene, and me particularly, I'm kind of lucky enough to be kind of in like a few different ones. Most predominantly is Hamilton and Niagara, both which have amazing local music scenes. Whether you're in hardcore, metal, punk, whatever, the music scenes are very, very much alive in those areas when we can play. But the people in the scenes are just amazing. Like the energy you can get from when you have a good crowd with a good promoter at a good venue with good sound, when everyone's playing good, you know, when everything clicks, it's like a high that you can't describe. You can't see it, but you can feel it. Anyone that's been in a band probably knows what I'm talking about, and it is by far the best feeling ever. In that moment, it's the thing I love the most about being in a band. It's like a dragon you chase. It's like a high. I don't know how else to describe it. So it might sound goofy, but that's what it is to me. That's the thing I love the most is, you know, the fact that I can grab a guy by his hair and scream in his face as loud as I want, or as loud as I can, and not only will he not get mad at me, he screams right back, and we drink a beer together, and we have fun, and it's all good. It's all about, you know, almost like community or brotherhood, or, you know, however you want to phrase it. It's that scene. It's all interwoven, interlocking. It's awesome. On the other side of that coin would be the things that I dislike the most would be the people that try to get into that scene for self-gain. Anyone that, you know, runs a bar or promotes shows and tries to hurt other bands, you know, tries to, whether they're ripping them off financially, ripping off their music, doing anything to just pad their own pockets, serve themselves as opposed to help local talent. You know, whether you're, you know, robbing equipment from some touring band's van, stealing door money to, go feed your drug habit, whatever the case may be. If you're in the scene for any other reason than to support the scene, support the people in it, support the bands in it, you're a piece of shit, and I got no use for you. That would be what I would hate the most. I think that's it. It's pretty good. All right, so my most useless talent, some would say I have two. One, I'm told I'm very excellent at farting and walking away. It's simple but effective. Another one is I have a problem with collecting clothes. The number one article of clothing would be t-shirts. I have bags and bags and closets of t-shirts. You can just ask my wife. Another thing I have a problem with getting rid of is boxers. I don't know why. Waistbands will be all stretched out. They'll be all, ripped up in the washing machine or whatever. I just won't get rid of them. So when I finally decide to retire a pair, I have a tradition that I do is I do everything in my power to turn them into a wrestling singlet. So you just throw the arms under, reef them up over the shoulders. And then I typically chase my wife around the house until they completely break off. And then they get thrown out, and then I buy new ones. It's not an easy job, but it's a good talent to have, and I will hopefully continue that into my retirement. That's it. All right, so my favorite food. It's a tough one. I'm a chubby guy. I would have to say a chicken wing wrapped in a taco, rested on top of a perfectly cooked medium rare steak, nestled into a dirty ashtray, maybe a baked potato on the side with some green beans and asparagus, an entire bag of Ruffles barbecue chips on the side, and oh fuck it, Steve, let's go get Sandy and go to Taco Bell.